friends, welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. Today we've got a knife from BEGG Knives. This is a slip joint from the slip joint series designed by JVO, Jared Van Otterloo from Canada. And there's a whole bunch of variants of this thing. If you count all the different colorways, I think there's 4 different blade styles. I got the simple little drop point mini. The drop point mini in red G10, and I'd like to share it with you. For those of you who are wondering, I still don't know when my knife sale is going to be. You know, the insurance company still hasn't told me how much money they're going to charge me. And, you know, for those of you who don't know the story, it's because I earned income while I was on my disability pension, which I didn't think was against the rules if the income was minimal, but, you know, they want me to pay back all my income. So I'm waiting for them to tell me how much it's going to be. It's actually driving me sick with stress because they're not telling me yet. And that's just frustrating no end. And once they finally tell me, I'll know exactly how much money I need to raise with my knife sale, and then I'll put it on the video. I will. Anyhow, we're looking at this knife today, and let's come over to the tabletop, and we're going to take a good close look at this thing, and I'm going to tell you everything I think about it and my opinions after using it, carrying it in my pocket for a while, and all the review stuff. Come on down. Here it is. It's a good looking traditional style, you know, permanently pinned construction slip joint knife. You do have a stop pin in there, so that's a little different than the really old school traditional, but other than that stop pin that comes in right here in this little sharpener's choil to rest when you go to close it. Other than that, it's very, very traditional slip joint knife. So with that stop pin, you can just slam it shut and not worry about that cutting edge getting chipped or smacked or rolled over or anything. Really like that. It's just a traditional slip joint done very well. It's just done really well. You've got G10, so modern materials here. It's 3D milled. It's got a little bit of a crown over that, so it's thickest right down the middle. We've got, of course, a back spring construction. You can see that back spring coming out a little bit right there. When you go to close it, it goes to the half stop, and then it's flush again. And it's a very half stop, 90 degrees to the handle. And well done. I really like it. Sharpener's choil's big enough for now, and you're not going to want to make it any bigger because then you're going to bring the edge in there. So you don't want to try to modify that and make it a bit bigger. I'm going to call it a full flat grind, although there's a little bit of an edge right there at the top. And so the taper begins right here and it starts tapering towards the tip right around halfway down the blade, maybe a little bit before halfway down the blade. Drop point styling, just really well done. JVO, it says right there, JVO design, and that's his logo there. That's Jared Van Otterloo from Canada. And he's designed this, and what are there, 4 other main styles. There's a sheep's foot, there's a hawk bill, there's one that he's calling a bullet train, reverse tanto. You know how I don't like that, I'd rather call it a K-tip. That's actually my favorite design. That one's not available in the mini size. That's available with the 4-inch handle, and I'll go through the measurements of this a little bit later. The 4-inch handle still under a 3-inch blade for the larger version, and this tiny one, it's basically a 2-inch blade, although technically it's just the tiniest bit under 2 inches in the blade length. I like the little mini size, but I think I'd really like the larger size too, especially the bullet train. It's just a really nice knife. It's a little less traditional in that this traditional's got a traditional, little scallop in there for the thumbnail opener. The bullet train's got fullers that come all the way along, perforated fullers on both sides, so you can do more of just a pinch to pull it open, although clearly you can do a pinch here and pull it open. The back spring is just at the edge of being too strong to do that, but it's not too strong to do that because I'm doing it right there. You can see it right there on your screen. But yeah, I think I'd like that fuller in the K-tip, especially if they did that guy in a mini. But that one, the blade is like 2.7 inches long. So, you know, be that, you choose. By the way, the steel, 14C28N, so a good stainless steel, a really good stainless steel. Satin finish, so it's got my fingerprints all over it already. It's got the vertical sand lines on it, just like on the bolster here. And these sand lines here on the emblem, I guess, are horizontal. So it looks kind of nice. These pins are sanded perfectly, so they're not, I don't know if they're glued in place. I don't know how they finished that. It just doesn't have that old school peened look to it because it's been sanded down. I'm sure it has been peened and then they sanded it, and so you can't see the peening, but I'm sure there's some peening in there, but I don't know that for a fact. You've got that also, the little milled cove along in here, just for a little texture, a little accent, a little bit decoration, and it's functional because when you're grabbing it with your hand like this, your thumbs go in there and it gives a little bit extra grip. Just really well done. Badging, that's okay. I don't mind that right there, the JVO design. The BEGG, I don't know, I think I'd like it a little bit smaller and horizontal across the ricasso there. I don't like badging on the main bevel of a blade. I like the main bevel of a blade to be clean, just the blade. A little picky that way. Other than that, quite nice. I can't do a tear down. Let's do some of the measurements on this thing. The weight of mine, this specific one here, 53 grams, 1.83 ounces. Not bad. Sharpness from the factory, 215 bests on my tester. So a lot of knives that I review, most of the knives review come a little bit sharper than that, but this isn't bad. The cutting edge length from the tip of the blade to the heel where the fuller ends, where the sharpener's choil ends, that's exactly 50 millimeters, 1.97 inches. The blade length tip to the closest spot on the handle, 53.7 millimeters, which is 2.11 inches. So yeah, sorry, I looked at the wrong thing before when I said it was just under 2 inches. It's a little over 2 inches, 2.11. Still under the 6 centimeter mark, which is good for Canadians. I think the law still stands that we can take up to a 6 millimeter long, a blade with a knife with a 6 millimeter long blade on domestic flights within Canada. So that's kind of nice. The blade thickness, just the tiniest bit under a tenth of an inch. It's 0.099 inches, which is 2.52 millimeters. So 2.5 millimeters thick, coming down to a tip. At the tip, it's still over half a millimeter thick. It's more like 0.6 millimeters thick right there. It's decently thick. I like that. The handle, the blade depth, this way, it's biggest right about where my fingernail is, right there. 15.6 millimeters, 0.614 of an inch. How thick is it behind the grind along here? Well, for most of it, it's right at 0.51 millimeters, 20 thousandths of an inch, almost exactly. It's a little thicker, closer to the tip up here, up to about 23.5 thousandths, or what is that, 0.56 millimeters, something like 0.57 millimeters, something like that. Grind angles, only one person on my previous 2 videos has asked for the grind angles to be given. It's a fair bit more work for me to, clamp it up, measure the grind angles, do the math, figure out the averages and all that stuff. So if you guys don't start asking for that, I'm not going to go back to doing that. So this is the 3rd video I'm asking. This is going to be the last time I'm asking, unless, more of you ask me for those numbers. The handle length. So with the blade closed, the handle length, using this as a reference for being straight, so I measure it like that. 72.7 millimeters, 2.86 inches. Grip area, same thing. Basically 73 millimeters, a little bit under 2.9 inches. That's what you get for grip area. The handle thickness, it's thickest right on this emblem right here. I guess the G10 sands away more easily. And that is 10.4 millimeters. That's 0.409 of an inch. So that's very traditional sizing. The handle depth with the blade open, it's biggest right here, right close to just behind this pin right here is where the widest point is, 16.6 millimeters, 0.653 of an inch. When the knife is closed, the widest point is right over that pin, 22.0 millimeters, 0.866 of an inch, 127 millimeters when it's open, roughly, I rounded it a bit, 5 inches. Not bad. The big versions of this knife, the large versions, they've got a 4-inch handle. So instead of having a handle length of, where did I put that? 2.86 inches, they say it's 4 inches, so it's right around 4 inches. So quite a bit bigger, although the blade length isn't, it seems to be under 3 inches on all of them. So under 3 inches for the large one, so you can still use it in almost any country in the world. Very few countries have limits that are shorter than around 3 inches, although most of their laws, of course, aren't metric, but there you go. How much does this knife cost? Well, this knife exactly, this red one, is $45.75 at White Mountain Knives. That's American dollars. You can save 10% with my coupon code CCE. That brings it down to $41.18 US, which is right around $56 Canadian. If you want to buy this in Canada, and I can't see why you need to. If you're in Canada, you can buy slip joints and fixed blade knives from White Mountain Knives, and they'll come into the country. You know, they'll pass the checks to come into the country. You'll often be able to get flippers and other knives in as well, but if they get inspected, they tend to get stopped. But even if this gets inspected at the border, it's going to come through because it's a traditional slip joint knife, which is 100% legal in Canada. Because in Canada, it's $75.99 Canadian. So $76 Canadian versus $56 Canadian at White Mountain Knives, $20 Canadian less. You know, to me, that's a no-brainer. Now, there is a tiny chance that you might have to pay a duty fee to get it into the country. That's very uncommon because I've got loads and loads of orders. I've only had to do that a handful of times. So your odds are much better to get this from the States. If you buy, $1,000 worth of knives, then your chance of having to pay duty on the package is higher. So you decide what kind of risk you want to take and the risk reward financially that you want to take. Other than that, the bigger ones, the 4-inch ones, they're like 10% more than the minis. That's a good buy. If you like the bigger one, a little bigger in the hand. I was hoping this for keychain use, but there's no keychain option. So this is a pocket dropper. If you want a big one, they're made exactly the same way in terms of the options and features. There's no lanyard feature, no keychain thing, which is what I would like on this one. If I would change the design on this, I would like to change a way to be able to add a lanyard option, keychain kind of option, especially to the mini. I'm sure there's a number of people for the larger one who would like that as well, but not everybody. It may be something, where you've got a little bit of a hole through the back here. Maybe you can't fit 550 paracord through it, but you could fit something through it. That'd be nice, but that's just me. But that would change it. It would make it less traditional. This is a very traditional slip joint knife, made very well using modern steel. It's still, a budget grade steel, but not a low budget grade steel. This is really, really nice. 14C28N. I'm very, very happy with that. It's got a good look to it. It's got a good hand feel. It's got good spring retention, spring tension on there. It's stays closed in your pocket. It's not going to open up in your pocket. No chance. Fit and finish, very well done. You can't feel the edges there. You run your nail across it and you can just barely feel the difference between the back spring and the bolsters there. And some spots in the back here, you can't feel it at all with your nail, and some spots you can, just barely. And the fit and finish of the G10, it's just nice. A number of different colorways for those different options, like the hawkbill, the sheep's foot, the drop point, the bullet train. You know, some of them have a brass bolster up here and a brass insert, brass pins. If you like that look, there's several of them that way. Most of them, though, have the steel. The brass ones cost, of course, a tiny bit more. Is it worth it? If that's what you like, it's worth it. I like this knife. It cuts well, it feels good in hand, and I would maybe make this edge a little bit thinner. Right at the edge, I'd like it to come a little thinner. Every time you sharpen it, it's going to get thicker behind that edge. So the main complaint, and it's a very small complaint, is I'd like it to be thinner. It's not terribly thick. You know, 20 thou is not bad, but I'd like it thinner. And if there is a design change that I would want, it would be a lanyard, hole, keychain, ring kind of thing, especially on the Mini. So that's this knife. What do you think of this knife? Do you have one? Would you get one? Would you rather get the large one? Would you rather get a different blade design? The blade shape? By the way, those prices, $45.75 to $55.50 US for these knives for the large and small ones, except for there's one exception. There's the Mini sheep's foot in white G10. Sort of looks like an ivory G10, or a white G10. It's listed for $32.50 before your 10% discount at White Mountain Knives. So if you like a sheep's foot and you like a Mini and you don't mind white, you get those while they still have them, a better design. In Canada, Blades Canada, they don't have all of the options, but they'll have some. I'll leave links down below to make it easier for you to find it in Canada and at White Mountain Knives. And I'll just list all of these JVO slip joints from BEGG knives on both of them, both of those sites, make it easy for you to find the whole selection that is available. There you go. Thank you so much for watching this video with me. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.